Roach was born on Sunday, October 30th, 1977, to his parents, Christine and ORVILLE Roach. He was a true campus child and grew up surrounded by his siblings and cousins, with many hours spent building lifelong friendships within the close-knit community. Marlon was known to be a very expressive child, and his face could be read like a book. He had a passionate personality and was rarely neutral about anything that mattered in life.
Marlon was generous. Marlon spent most of his elementary school years at the Maracas SDA Primary School, the best primary school. He was a typical, fun-loving and mischievous boy and spent many hours playing games such as Shell Talks and the Roaches, with his siblings and cousins, of course. It was also during primary school that many people came to learn of Marlon for gift giving. There was one time that Marlon's generosity may have gone a bit too far. At some point, Marlon felt strongly that he needed to give a gift to his favorite teacher, Mrs. Ferdinand. Everyone was very impressed by the fabric he gave to her, especially Mrs. Ferdinand. It wasn't until Mrs. Ferdinand expressed how impressed she was by the gift to Marlon's grandmother that the backstory started to unfold. While searching her sewing basket for a particularly nice piece of fabric she had bought, it dawned on her that the fabric that had fallen victim to Marlon's generosity was the same. This generosity was a trait that continued through all of his life, and he was known for arriving on the doorstep of his family and friends with goodies and treats whenever he visited them.
Marlon was charming. Marlon had a warm Marlon had a warm and endearing spirit that could pull people in. He had friends wherever he went. Wherever he went. His Auntie LEOLA recalls falling prey to this spirit when one day he came to her for a loan to pay for some fudge he had ordered but could not afford. Somehow he managed to not only charm her into paying his debt, but into keeping it a secret. Her payment was his handsome smile and a wink of an eye whenever they met in Grandpa's music room.
Marlon was a musician. Marlon came from a musical family and as such was surrounded by music from an early age. His early performances were in his Grandpa Roach's Ambassadors for Christ Orchestra. This learning experience continued under the direction of his Uncle Lester Roach in the college band. When Marlon decided that he wanted to learn the trumpet, he could be heard practicing for hours on his apartment gallery in the valley. This time and dedication set the foundation for his future career. He went on to play with the Trinidad and Tobago Cadet Force, Police Band, and many soca bands that were the cornerstone of his career. Marlon played in Ecstatic, Atlantic, Pure Energy, and Asylum, in addition to other groups and ensembles. Whether or not they are willing to admit it, Marlon's family was always quick to point out some horn arrangements on a hot soca track. In addition to playing music, Marlon also worked in production and recording, an activity that he loved as it allowed him to work with a variety of musical genres and make his mark. Louis Armstrong, the famous trumpeter, once said that musicians don't retire. They stop when there's no more music left in them. Marlon never stopped being a musician. He never stopped because he always had more music left in him.
Marlon was loyal. It can be said that Marlon was volcanically protective of those he loved. You would be hard-pressed to find a family member or friend that could not tell you a story of Marlon standing up for them. There was no secret at times. He could have arguments and disagreements with family members and friends, but his loyalty was unquestioned. Although Marlon's career kept him on the road, he was always proactive about staying in communication with the people important in his life. It was not unusual for Marlon to pop in to surprise his friends when passing through various countries and cities, friends and family, various countries and cities for a gig. He never missed birthdays, and he always did his best to stay in contact in spite of his general opposition to social media. He was an old school, pick up the phone and call kind of friend. In more recent years, he was his aunt's solace and rock when her husband was sick and eventually passed away. That's just the kind of man he was.
Marlon was a survivor. For the past several years, Marlon has been battling with the impact of kidney failure. During this time, his devoted mom worked tirelessly to ensure that he was well cared for and had anything he needed and wanted. He did his best to keep working and living life to the fullest to the end. In the past year, his illness caused him to slow down, take a step back, and look at his life. And he began an intentional journey to bring healing to the relationships in his life. His patience began to grow and he sought forgiveness from many whom he felt he had wronged.
Marlon was loved. During Marlon's illness, it became visibly clear how important Marlon was to so many people. His friends and family rallied around him to offer rides to dialysis and a listening ear. In the final weeks of his life, he was lovingly bombarded by phone calls, visits, text messages, food, medical supplies, and offers of support, which came from near and far. His sisters, mother, father, and aunts were at his bedside daily, and he had friends and cousins in Trinidad, Bermuda, and the US that made it to his side to help care for him and spend treasured time with him. On November 2nd, 2019, Marlon passed away, peacefully surrounded by his family. In the days leading up to the end, he was never alone.
Planning a celebration of life for a loved one is never easy. It does help that we had a very simple strategy. At every step of the way, we asked ourselves, what would Marlon say? This tactic helped us to quickly delete a few elements off of the program. Marlon was nothing if not very clear about how he felt about something. He was not afraid to use his words, but those that know him best know that his facial expressions were enough to do the trick. I know that we're all sad here today, but humor me in this exercise, and I promise a smile will come to your face. Earlier, we shared that Marlon's face could be read like a book. Now let's all close our eyes and picture Marlon's face in these situations. Close your eyes. Scenario 1, picture this. Someone puts down their doubles and picks up his trumpet with their greasy doubles hand. Scenario 2, someone asks him to perform for free at a gig for which they were charging an entrance fee and also getting paid. Scenario 3, someone in the band plays out of harmony or out of tune during a performance. See, I told you this would make you smile. So, what would Marlon say today? He'd likely say there's a whole lot of people here he didn't expect. He'd also say in his signature way, no scene, remember me, but keep going and enjoy your life. We were blessed to have Marlon in our lives for 42 years. Not nearly enough, but we know that he will live on in our hearts.